Hello, welcome to Chapter 2, What is Language? This chapter tries to discuss the definition of language, whether animals can use language as well, and this can only be done through presenting the defining properties of language which makes human unique. Now, the properties of human language. Of course, when talking about human language, we talk about the unique system of communication. When we say unique system, then it is only a human that can use this system of communication, no other creatures. Now, certain facts to be taken into account. Signals can be of two types. The sound signals can be of two types, either informative signals which you have not intentionally sent, like body language, or communicative signals you use intentionally to communicate something. And then the reflexivity means using the language for the sake of language. Now we are doing reflexive linguistics. Why? Because we talk about language for the sake of language itself. These facts to be taken into consideration. Then what are the properties that are unique to human being? What are the properties that are unique to a human being? Let's start with displacement. According to the different versions of the book, of the textbook, of your textbook, there is a kind of difference in terms of the chronological order of the properties. Some books start with the displacement, some books start with other properties. Now let's start with displacement. What does displacement mean? It means that human language refers to past, present, and the future. It can be used whenever we talk about language, and whenever we talk about time. We can use it at night. We can use it in the day. We can use it today. We can use it, to talk about yesterday, last night, and so on and so forth. So it deals with the abstract concepts, things that do not exist in real life. Okay? We can talk about the Superman, the Batman, the Santa Claus, things that have no existence at all. While animal communication is related to the immediate moment. Yes, they can use certain sound signals, but for the immediate communication only. There is no displacement. They cannot talk. You cannot find a cat telling you what happened last night. You cannot find any monkey or chimpanzee making certain sound signals to talk about yesterday or last month or last night or last hour. And that's why that is the meaning of displacement, the ability to use language at different points of time, for example, present, future, or past. The second one is the arbitrariness, which basically means the ability to or the connection between the language and its representation. In human being, in the human language, there is no one-to-one relationship between the message and the entity it refers to. No natural connection between the linguistic form and its meaning or its reference. The relationship is arbitrary. For example, dog, when we talk about dog in English or kalb in Arabic, so yes, we have the conceptualization of the dog in our minds, but there is no connection, there is no tangible connection between the dog as a language which refers to that entity, that animal. There is no connection. While in animal communication, there is a connection between the message and the signal they use to convey. There is a message, and that's why we see the dog when it is in an attacked position, and so does the cat when being attacked by the enemy. So they use their signals to make a connection between the signal and the message, using certain sound signals to indicate the aggressiveness. 3, productivity, and this is the most important one: productivity or creativity. This basically means that human beings are capable of producing novel utterances, new expressions for new objects, and these new or novel utterances are infinite, regardless of the grammaticalness or semantic meanings of these novel utterances. Why? Because human beings use language, use their creativity to produce language. So a language user can manipulate his linguistic resources, and this is what we mean by open-endedness. We can use a lot of infinitive or infinite number of sentences based on our limited set of rules. We can use unlimited set of sentences or utterances that have never been said before or used before, and that's the meaning of manipulation of one's linguistic resources. While animals have very limited sets of signals to choose from. They are fixed. For example, the dolphin has 30 to 31 to 36 set signals. The bees, the honeybees, have 60 to 62 to 65, around this number of signals, and so on and so forth. So they cannot produce new signals, novel utterances. They cannot use their creativity in terms of language. And this is another difference that makes language unique for a human being. The next one is cultural transmission, or the need for learning. And this is very obvious in a human being. When we acquire language, we need to learn it. It is not only acquisition, we need to learn it, to learn how to use it, where to use it, and when to use it. While in animal communication, there is no context, there is no way of use, there is no need to have different accents and dialects. You can find the dog barking in the Arab countries, and the same barking in the Western countries. You can find the mowing of the cat wherever you go and wherever you find any prototype of the cat. So the human being is in desperate need for cultural transmission or the need for learning, while animal communication does not have such a property. And this is a matter that makes language unique for a human being. Duality. The next property is duality. Duality, simply speaking, is the use of two or more layers of language to produce a well form of a given language. It is two levels or more. For example, distinct sound or distinct and distinct meaning. Distinct sound and distinct, for example, phoneme plus grapheme gives a morpheme, and morpheme plus another morpheme equal a word. Words, several words arranged according to a certain order of certain language, will give different layers of language. This kind of layering or levels is not found in the animal communication. Animal communicative things appear to be fixed. Typically, they cannot. These layers cannot be broken into parts. For example, the mouthing of the cat cannot be cut into its immediate constituents. Cannot be analyzed anymore. It is fixed, and this makes the human ability to use duality as one of the defining properties making language unique for human. Now, recently, linguisticians or scholars dealing with linguistics have been trying their best to find the similarities and differences between human language and animal communication, starting with types of apes and chimpanzees and these closest to human being creatures or animals. They have been investigating the ability of animals to talk, whatever language, but to talk. So they've asked the question: is language the exclusive property of human beings? Are the communication systems used by other creatures at all like human linguistic knowledge? These two basic questions. Now, the answer has been done by conducting certain experiments on certain chimpanzees. Some researchers devoted their time, of course, to such experiments, but unfortunately I say it, all these experiments have been unsuccessful. All these experiments have been unsuccessful. However, knowledge does not stop at this point. So, in 1930s, there is the chimpanzee Gua, was able to understand 100 words but did not produce any of them. In 1940s, Vicky produced poorly articulated versions of mama, papa, and so on, but cannot produce any more. The result: non-human primates lack a physically structured vocal tract needed to produce sounds. So chimpanzees, yes, they are 99% similar to a human being, but they do not have the same sound tract of the human being. So this is the only point that could make the other creatures different from the human being, or that can make the language of a human being is unique for a human being. Again, the same experiment with Washa. They started to think of using their intelligence to produce language on computer or these things. They use a version of American Sign Language, not the spoken one, sign language, raised like a human. This Washa raised like a human. After 3.5 years, they came to use more than 100 words, but they tried to use the airplane, the banana, and so on, but combine them to produce sentences, more fruit, and so on and so forth. But when left alone, the thing is different. It is found that they have made chaos. The same with Sarah and Lana. They used the same experiments, and they both find used word symbols, use a set of plastic shapes, and so on and so forth. But also the result was not that wanted one. Now here we are in front of a controversy. Can animals speak human-like languages? No. Terrace argues that researchers over-interpreted their results. Now, when these experiments have been used and have produced the results, they over-exaggerate in terms of interpreting their results. This means that when a chimpanzee uses certain symbols, it does not necessarily mean that this chimpanzee uses a kind of language or any linguistic structure. So this is an interpretation. Sometimes we go over and over in interpreting certain moves or certain utterances. Now, the other side of this controversy is that animals produce a particular behavior in response to a particular stimulus or noise, but do not actually understand what words mean. This means that animals respond to certain stimulus. Now, when you say something, they do not understand it. They only hear it like a sound signal, and they respond to the sound signal, but without any kind of creativity. So both of these extremes saying that human language is only unique for human. Now, and the experiments again of Kanzi learned the symbols not by being taught, but by being exposed to it in an early age, exposure. Now, those were the chimpanzees capable of taking part in the interactions by using the symbols chosen by human and not chimpanzees. So this is again another controversy, not by chimpanzees, chosen by the human. So did they perform linguistically on the level of a child, their age? So this is again a question under controversy. Of course, the answer is not. Humans process language. Process a natural inborn facility to be creative with symbols. As I said, humans use their creativity as far as we know, but animals do not use their creativity at all. As I said, they just respond to a stimulus, like the sound signals. Again, the same issue with the Koko, the gorilla, another chimpanzee of the experiments. They use sign language and language boards, computers, and so computers, and so on and so forth. The example of a conversation live via internet. Now you see, this is the example that has been written by the Koko, the gorilla. This is interested, of course, in emotional content of words. However, it is interpreted interpreted our behaviors and objects. So, reportedly, Cuckoo cried when told of the death of Robin Williams. Cried, but what type of cry? And is it for only the death of Robin Williams, the one who adopted it? Now, what about if we tell this gorilla about the death of anybody else? Will this gorilla show some kind of regret, sorrow, or pain or something? Of course not. So all these make the language unique for human being. I hope that I have made this lecture understandable enough for you. Please just look at it and try to understand what is language through the defining properties, and these defining properties can only be compared to animal communication. And that's all for me. Thank you very much. If you have any question, any inquiry, you can send it online and I'll be happy to answer you. Thank you very much.